Isolation is not the goal of living alone. It's about at last enjoying your life as you see fit. It's about realizing that you have complete control over every choice you make when you get up each morning. Just tranquility, control, and the freedom to be who you really are. No responsibilities, no compromises. However, how can you determine whether living alone is the best option for you? Have you ever yearned for peaceful times away from other people's commotion and obligations? When you have time to yourself, do you feel more relaxed? Are you beginning to see that the presence of others is not necessary for your happiness? This video is for you if you can relate to any of them. Today, we'll reveal 12 compelling indicators that you're prepared to live alone and why it may be one of the most liberating and satisfying decisions you ever make. Additionally, pay close attention to the final sign because it has the power to drastically alter your perception of the future. 1. You're more in need of calm and tranquility than ever. Margaret, 67, was surrounded by relatives for the majority of her life. Children's laughter, dinner table chatter, and the occasional pandemonium that comes with a full family were all constant sounds in her household. She adored it. She believed she required it. But as she grew older, something changed. She sat down in her favorite recliner one afternoon after her grandchildren's particularly rowdy weekend visit, took a deep breath, and came to a profound realization. For the first time in years, she felt calmer amid the quiet. Not because she didn't cherish her family. She loved them. However, she also understood that calm and tranquility weren't extravagances. They were essential to her health. This may be a hint if you find yourself longing for a place where you can hear your own thoughts without interruption, if the sounds of a busy household feel more exhausting than energizing, or if you find yourself cherishing periods of isolation. You might find the balance and peace of mind you so desperately need by living alone. Chapter 2. You take pleasure in your own company. Have you ever been by yourself for a whole day and thoroughly enjoyed it? That understanding came as a surprise to John, 73. Long periods of time and no clear routine were his new normal after retirement. He began gardening in his backyard, a pastime he had never tried before, as an alternative to feeling lonely. He would spend hours tending to his plants, lost in the peaceful rhythm of nature and feeling absolutely at peace. His family and friends were initially concerned. "Do you not feel lonely?" they would inquire. However, John didn't see it that way. He wasn't trying to avoid people. He was just taking pleasure in himself. He had lived in a busy home for decades, surrounded by people all the time. He was now content with the way he chose to spend his time, unhindered and without compromise. Living alone might be the ideal way of life for you if you prefer having complete control over your day and finding happiness in small, alone times like reading a book, going on a stroll, or having a peaceful cup of coffee in the morning. Isolation isn't the issue. It's about accepting and genuinely appreciating your own company. 3. You respect your personal space and have solid boundaries. Liz, 70, enjoyed hosting her daughter and grandchildren for many years. There was usually a lot of bustle and laughter in the house. But eventually she noticed something. Instead of feeling satisfied, she felt exhausted. Her peaceful mornings spent reading a book and drinking coffee were replaced by hectic breakfasts. She couldn't sleep because of the loud TV in the middle of the night. Worst of all, she was always changing her routines to fit in with other people. She came to a realization one day following an especially demanding babysitting weekend. She no longer lived in her own house according to her own rules. She loved her family, but she also appreciated her rituals, her desire for seclusion, and her quiet. She decided as a result, time to take back her personal space. She established limits in a tactful but strong manner, telling her daughter that although visits were welcome, she needed time to herself. She made her house a place of refuge that worked for her. Calm evenings, quiet mornings, and the freedom to come and go as she wanted without worrying about other people. You could be ready for a home that genuinely meets your requirements if you find yourself continuously sacrificing your comfort, time, or energy for other people. Living alone does not mean isolating oneself from others. It's about putting yourself first in a way that lets you succeed. 4. You desire total authority over your timetable and space. Susan, 68, lived with her sister for many years. Although they got along well, she began to become tired of small things. Sharing the TV remote when she merely wanted to watch her favorite show without interruption. Waiting until her sister was ready to eat before having dinner, and adjusting the thermostat to someone else's comfort level. She came to a realization one evening while she was reading. She has had enough of making small concessions. Without worrying about what other people thought, she wanted to set the house temperature to her chosen level, eat when she was hungry, and organize her space exactly the way she wanted it. She decided to jump. She took up residence in a smaller house, furnished it according to her preferences, and established her daily schedule on her own terms. She no longer needs to argue over who gets to do the dishes. She can eat whenever she wants, and she can leave the house as untidy or neat as she likes. Living alone might be the ideal next step if you find yourself wanting more control over your house, your time, and your decisions. Just your space, your rules, and your way, no more compromising. 5. The role of caregiver is no longer appropriate for you. Nancy, 74, devoted her life to helping people for many years. She took care of her elderly husband throughout his last years, reared 3 children, and always prioritized the needs of others before her own. She was at a crossroads, though, as her children moved out and her caring duties ceased. She wondered herself, what do I really want now? As she sat in her peaceful home one evening, it felt liberating to not have to schedule her days around someone else's demands, do errands for them, or cook for them for the first time in decades. Nancy decided it was time to prioritize oneself. She downsized, made a room for herself, and began pursuing interests she had put on hold for years. Reading, painting, and even going on a solitary trip. It's a strong indication if you've dedicated the most of your life to helping others and now feel the need to prioritize your own contentment, tranquility, and health. You can still love your family even if you live alone. It indicates that you're at last giving yourself permission to live for yourself. 6. Aging doesn't have to mean sacrificing your independence if you want to age on your own terms. Finding the ideal balance between maintaining security and enjoying freedom is important to many. Consider 75-year-old Tom. He had lived with his family for years, but as he grew older, he came to the realization that he wanted more authority over his day-to-day activities. He didn't want to be put in a facility before he was ready, nor did he want to be dependent on his kids for everything. He chose to take control of his own age instead. Tom came up with a scheme. In order to better suit his needs, he downsized to a smaller, low-maintenance home. He hired a part-time caretaker to help with household chores and grocery shopping, not because he needed round-the-clock assistance. To help him feel more at ease while living alone, he installed smart home technologies, such as motion-activated lights and a medical alert system. Most significantly, he made sure his loved ones were aware of his desires so he could live his life as he saw fit for as long as possible. Being alone does not equate to living alone. It entails making your own decisions about when and how to get help instead of letting someone else decide for you. Know this if you've ever been concerned that as you get older, you won't have as much control over your life. Living alone can be a great way to keep secure and supported while retaining your independence. Chapter 7. Taking care of your home by yourself can feel too much. Living alone offers independence, but it also entails obligations. Fixing a dripping faucet or changing a light bulb didn't seem like a huge problem at 50. However, it can be difficult to climb ladders or lift large objects over the age of 80. Consider Linda, who is 80. She had always been self-sufficient, but as the years went by, she became aware of how draining it was to keep up with yard work, home repairs, and general maintenance. Although she knew she couldn't accomplish everything by herself, she didn't want to put her kids through any hardship, so she took over. She made a list of seasonal house care chores, such as spring cleaning, gutter upkeep, and pre-winter heating inspections. To handle the more difficult tasks, such as replacing difficult-to-reach light bulbs, cleaning gutters, and repairing leaks, she employed a handyman twice a year. In order to simplify maintenance, she reduced the size of her house. Cleaning and repairs were reduced when there were fewer rooms. To make sure she always had someone to call in an emergency, she sought her neighbors for tips on trustworthy experts. You don't have to do everything by yourself if you live alone. It entails being astute about how you manage yourself and assign tasks. Consider making a maintenance schedule and enlisting assistance for the more difficult chores if you enjoy your independence but find it difficult to maintain your home. You ought to have a cozy, secure environment free from the strain of managing things by yourself. Loneliness can surprise you even for introverts. A lot of people believe that if you like being by yourself, you won't ever feel lonely. But in reality, even people who enjoy their alone time require interaction. 76-year-old John has always been self-sufficient. He never felt the need to be among people all the time, and he loved his peaceful mornings. However, after living alone for a few months, he became aware of an oddity. He would not have a single meaningful discussion for days. He wasn't depressed, but he was beginning to feel more alone than he had anticipated. John changed it in a subtle but significant way rather than disregarding it. He called an old friend for coffee in the morning. They would enjoy their morning coffee and talk for 15 minutes every Monday and Thursday. He joined a local senior walking group to strike up a chat with people he knew, not to form close friendships. Every time he went errands, he made it a point to greet at least 3 individuals. It could have been a neighbor strolling their dog or the cashier at the grocery store. These alterations didn't seem like much at first, but after a few weeks, John became aware of something. He had lighter days. Those few moments of connection gave him something to look forward to, but he still had his precious alone time. Living alone does not equate to being alone. It's about striking a balance, according to your personal standards, between connection and seclusion. If you enjoy your independence but occasionally feel a bit too alone, think about making regular phone calls, joining a laid-back social club, or simply striking up a discussion every day. A small link has a big impact. 9. It's simple to neglect your own needs. Slip. When you live alone, no one is there to remind you to maintain an active lifestyle, eat healthily, or attend doctor's visits. It's simple to convince yourself that you don't really need to take that walk today or that you'll cook tomorrow. Small behaviors like these, however, can accumulate over time and result in low energy, poor health, and even feelings of loneliness. After retiring and relocating to her own home, 72-year-old Barbara came to this realization. She first cherished the freedom, not having a schedule or anyone directing her what to do. She quickly discovered, however, that she was hardly going outside, skipping meals, and watching too much TV. She made the decision to change. She incorporated basic self-care practices into her everyday routine rather than waiting for inspiration. Organizing meals. She never had to rely on pre-made dinners because she prepared simple, healthful meals on Sundays. Walks every day. Rain or shine, she went for a 15-minute stroll every morning at 9 a.m. Turned into her unavoidable alone time. Health checkups. She never missed a doctor's visit since she planned them all ahead of time and set phone reminders. Social engagement. She made it a point to message or call at least one buddy, even on the days when nothing was going on. Barbara felt more resilient, content, and in control in a matter of weeks. She was still content to be alone, but now she was living rather than merely existing. You don't have to disregard yourself to live alone. It entails accepting accountability for your health, which begins with little daily routines that maintain your happiness and well-being. It's time to take control if you find yourself avoiding checkups, skipping meals, or spending too much time indoors. Establish a pattern, schedule things that keep you interested, and organize your meals. Your future self will be appreciative. Chapter 10. You see solitude as a chance for personal development. Living alone can be lonely for many people. However, solitude becomes a gift for those who accept it. Without being constrained by the schedule or expectations of others, it's an opportunity to rediscover old passions, reconnect with yourself, and pursue new interests. Richard, 76, had never thought of himself as creative, but he had always appreciated artists. He battled the silent nights after his wife died until he picked up a paintbrush one evening. Initially, it was merely a way to kill time, but before long, he was so engrossed in the process that he lost track of the hours. Richard paints nearly every night now. He doesn't care about being good at it and doesn't adhere to any restrictions. He only appreciates being free to be himself and no one else. Loneliness is not the goal of living alone. It's about having the room to develop, change, and pursue your passions. Have you always wished to write? Begin writing in your journal each morning. Are you a music lover? Take your time learning an instrument online. Do you want to continue being active? Try dancing, yoga, or gardening. Anything that feels pleasant. Being alone does not mean being empty. It's a canvas. Put something that makes you happy in there. This could be your cue to embrace living alone and make the most of it if you've ever thought, I wish I had more time for myself. 11. You've adopted simplicity and minimalism. We begin to understand as we age that life isn't about accumulating more possessions. It's about understanding what really counts. Many elderly people feel overburdened by their year's worth of belongings, clinging to items more out of habit than need. But what if there were more clarity, enjoyment, and calm in letting go? Consider Susan, who is 74. She kept everything for decades. Stacks of periodicals, furnishings that made her home feel small, old clothes she no longer wore, and gifts she never used. Although she believed these items had sentimental value, they were actually just making her stress levels higher. Then she had a revelation one day. Why do I keep things that don't help me anymore? Everything changed when that question was asked. She started small and didn't get rid of everything at once. She started by organizing her kitchen and giving up devices that she hadn't used in years. She then rummaged through her closet, preserving only the items she genuinely loved. Her house gradually changed from a disorganized area to a calm and comfortable setting. The goal of minimalism is not to discard everything. It's about creating room for the important things. Without feeling overburdened, how can one simplify? Begin modestly. Declutter one area at a time, such as a drawer, shelf, or corner. Do I utilize this, you ask? Do I feel happy about this? It's time to let it go if not. Make a meaningful donation. Give them to someone who will genuinely value them rather than feeling bad about giving them up. Make your house a stress-free place. Less upkeep, less cleaning, and more time for activities you enjoy are all benefits of a simpler home. More flexibility, less stress, and less clutter. Living alone could be the ideal way to truly embrace a simpler lifestyle if you find yourself drawn to it. 12. When you stop doubting yourself, you're completely satisfied with your choice. No more feelings of guilt. You can stop questioning whether you made the proper decision. All you need is a peaceful assurance that living alone is ideal. Susan, 78, battled for years with the thought of leaving her longtime residence. It was the home in which she had brought up her kids, and each room held recollections of milestones, holidays, and joy. However, over time, the house began to feel too large, too empty, and too labor-intensive. Keeping up with repairs, cleaning, and yard maintenance became too much to handle. She hesitated, though. Would it seem like giving up to move? Would her relatives comprehend? Would she feel alone? Susan finally made the decision after months of discussion. She discovered a comfortable apartment in a friendly, peaceful neighborhood. It took some getting used to throughout the first couple weeks. She had to give up furniture, old possessions, and even the small items she had gathered over the years in order to downsize. However, an unforeseen event occurred. She was relieved rather than grieved. The never-ending housekeeping chores were over. Snow shoveling, roof repairs, and leaking faucets were all things she no longer had to worry about. Rather, she felt lighter and more liberated every morning. She had her own area now. Everything was there for a reason. She genuinely adored every piece of furniture, every book, and every decor. The past no longer dragged her down. Rather, she was filled with enthusiasm for what was ahead. Above all, she felt calm. How can you tell when you're prepared? Choosing what's best for you is no longer a source of guilt. You don't fear silence. You embrace it. You are less tied to the past and more enthusiastic about the future. You've made a place that feels more like a haven than a hardship. Isolation is not the goal of living alone. It has to do with freedom. You're not simply living alone if you wake up every day with the knowledge that your time, your space, and your life are entirely yours. You're doing well. Isolation is not the goal of living alone. It's all about living a life that is true to who you are. It's about realizing that you have complete control over your time, space, and decisions when you get up every day. That's an enticing thought for some people. Others might find it a little intimidating. Here's the reality, though. One of the most rewarding and liberating experiences of your life may be living alone. There will be difficulties, of course. There could be times when you feel lonely and wish you had someone nearby to laugh with or share an idea with. However, solitude may be a source of happiness, progress, and serenity if one adopts the proper attitude and routines. You may now design your own daily schedule that works for your energy and rhythm. You can engage in hobbies you never had time for previously, including reading, drawing, gardening, or just relaxing with a cup of tea. Above all, you may create a life that allows you to feel comfortable in your own skin. Thus, I would like to hear from you. Which of these indications most resonated with you? Do you currently live alone, or are you thinking about doing so? How has your experience been? Leave a comment with your ideas. Tell me your story, please. For more tips on how to live your best, most meaningful life at any age, please like, subscribe, and enable notifications if this video inspired you. Keep in mind that there is yet more to come. This marks the start of a new chapter in your life, one in which you have authority.